What is factoring? I have this expression. This is a product. Because I am multiplying 2x and u plus 3. This 2 is called a factor. X is another factor. And u plus 3 is another factor. So, in a product, factors are multiplied. Next, I am going to remove the parenthesis using the distributive property. Multiply 2x and u, you get 2xu. Next, multiply 2x and 3. 2 times 3 is positive 6 times x. This is a term, and this is another term. Now, if you are given the expression on the right, and from that, if you find the expression on the left, what you are doing is called factoring. So, factoring is writing an expression as a product of factors. This 2x is called the greatest common factor or GCF of the terms of the expression. So, to factor an expression, first you need to find the GCF of the terms of the expression. Then inside the parentheses, divide each term by the GCF. So divide this term by 2x plus divide this by 2x. Now simplify. You can cancel out 2 and 2, x and x. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Cancel out x and x. Now you have 2x. Inside the parentheses, you have u plus 3. You factored this expression. Now the question is, what is the greatest common factor? And how to find that? First, we will look at the greatest common factor of numbers. Then we will look at the greatest common factor of variables. I'm considering two numbers, 12 and 20. 12 can be written as 2 times 6 and 3 times 4. 20 can be written as 2 times 10 and 4 times 5. If you take these two, 2 is the common factor. And if you take these two, 4 is the common factor. So there are two common factors between 12 and 20. Out of these two common factors, 4 is the greatest. So the greatest common factor of 12 and 20 is 4. To find the GCF, take the two numbers and divide. You can divide both the numbers by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Again, these numbers can be divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. There is no number that can divide 3 and 5. Now the greatest common factor is, multiply these two numbers. 2 times 2 is 4. So you got the GCF. Next we are going to look at the greatest common factor of variables. I'm considering x to the third and x to the seventh, and writing these as a product of two factors. X to the third can be written as x times x squared, and x to the seventh can be written as x times x to the sixth, x squared times x to the fifth, and x to the third times x to the fourth. If you take these two, x is the common factor. For these two, x squared is the common factor. And for these two, x to the third is the common factor. So there are three common factors between x to the third and x to the seventh. The greatest is x to the third. So x to the third is the greatest common factor of x to the third and x to the seventh. Note that between x to the third and x to the seventh, 3 is the smallest exponent. So to find the GCF of variables, pick the one with the smallest exponent. So for x to the fifth and x squared, the GCF is x squared, as this exponent is the smallest. And for x and x to the fourth, the GCF is x. Let us do some problems. Problem 1. Factor 3y minus 12. In this expression, there are two terms. To factor, we need to find the greatest common factor of the terms. First, take the numbers from each term. You have 3 and 12. Now divide. 3 and 12 can be divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 1 and 4 cannot be divided by any number. So the greatest common factor for the numbers is 3. Next, look at the variable. The variable y is here, not here. So there is no common factor for the variable. Now factor out the greatest common factor. Put parentheses. Now divide each term by 3. 3y divided by 3 is y. Minus 12 divided by 3 is 4. You've factored the given expression. Problem 2. Factor 2x cubed plus x. First, take the numbers from each term. There is a number 2 here and no number here. So there is no common factor for the numbers. Now look at the variables. You have x cubed and x. The GCF of x cubed and x is x. Factor out the GCF. Put parenthesis. Divide each term by x. 2x cubed divided by x is 2x squared. Plus, x divided by x is 1. This is the answer. Problem 3. Factor 30x cubed minus 45x squared. Take the numbers from each term. You have 30 and 45. Divide. 30 and 45 can be divided by 3. 30 divided by 3 is 10. 45 divided by 3 is 15. 10 and 15 can be divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 2 and 3 cannot be divided by any number. So the greatest common factor of the numbers is 3 times 5, which is 15. Now find the GCF of the variable. You have x cubed and x squared. The GCF is x squared. Multiply GCF of the variable with the GCF of the numbers. Now factor out 15x squared. Put parenthesis. Now divide each term by 15x squared. 30 divided by 15 is 2. X cubed divided by x squared is x. Minus 45 divided by 15 is 3. X squared and x squared canceled out. You've factored the expression. Problem 4. Factor 7y to the 6th plus 4y to the 4th. Take the numbers from each term. The numbers are 7 and 4. Divide. 7 and 4 cannot be divided by any number except 1. So the greatest common factor of the numbers is 1. If the GCF is 1, you cannot factor a number out of the expression. So ignore the 1. Now find the GCF of the variable. You have y to the 6th and y to the 4th. The GCF is y to the 4th. Next, factor out y to the 4th. Put parentheses. Now divide each term by y to the 4th. 7y to the 6th divided by y to the 4th is 7. Y to the 6th divided by y to the 4th is y squared. Plus 4. Y to the 4th divided by y to the 4th is 4. This is the answer. Next, we are going to factor this expression. This is a polynomial with 3 terms. So we call this expression a trinomial. First, take the numbers from each term. The numbers are 21, 35, and 7. Divide. All 3 numbers can be divided by 7. 21 divided by 7 is 3. 35 divided by 7 is 5. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Now these numbers cannot be divided by any number. So the greatest common factor of the numbers is 7. Next, find the GCF of the variable. We have y to the 4th, y to the 3rd, and y to the 6th. 3 is the smallest exponent. So the greatest common factor of the variable is y to the 3rd. Multiply this with the GCF of the numbers. Next, factor out 7y cubed. Put parentheses. Now divide each term by 7y cubed. 21y to the 4th divided by 7y to the 3rd is 21 divided by 7 is 3. Y to the 4th divided by y cubed is y. Plus 35y to the 3rd divided by 7y to the 3rd is 5. Minus 7y to the 6th divided by 7y to the 3rd is y to the 3rd. We factored the polynomial. This is also a trinomial, as there are 3 terms. Let us factor this. The first term is negative. So you need to factor out the negative sign. So put a negative sign in the GCF. Now take the numbers from each term. You have 3, 12, and 3. Now divide. All these numbers can be divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1, 4, 1. These numbers cannot be divided by any number. So the greatest common factor of the numbers is 3. Now look at the variable. You have x to the 5th, x to the 3rd, and x to the 2nd. 2 is the smallest exponent. So the GCF of the variable is x squared. So the GCF is negative 3x squared. Next, factor out the GCF. Put parentheses. Next, divide each term by negative 3x squared. Negative 3x to the 5th divided by negative 3x squared is positive x to the 3rd. Negative 12x to the 3rd divided by negative 3x squared is positive 12 divided by 3 is 4. X to the 3rd divided by x squared is x. Positive 3x squared divided by negative 3x squared is negative 1. This is the answer. In this expression, this is a term and this is another term. Note that a term is a product of factors. In this term, 2 is a factor, x is a factor, and x plus 8 is another factor. And in this term, 7 and x plus 8 are factors. What is GCF of this expression? There are two number factors, 2 and 7. These numbers cannot be divided by any number except 1. So the GCF of the numbers is 1. There is an x in this term, but there is no x, or x raised to some power in this term. So there is no common factor for the x. The factor x plus 8 is in both the terms. So the GCF is x plus 8. Factor out x plus 8. Put parentheses. Now divide each term by x plus 8. If you divide this term by x plus 8 and x plus 8 get cancelled, you get 2x. Plus, if you divide this term by x plus 8 and x plus 8 get cancelled, you get 7. This is the answer. This problem is same as the previous one. In this expression, the greatest common factor is w minus 5. Factor out w minus 5. Put parentheses. Divide each term by w minus 5. If you divide this term by w minus 5 and w minus 5 get cancelled, you get 10w squared. Minus. If you divide w minus 5 by w minus 5, you get 1. You've factored the expression. Next, factor by grouping. Problem 9. Factor by grouping. 2x cubed plus 7x squared plus 10x plus 35. This polynomial has 4 terms. If a polynomial has 4 terms, then we factor it by grouping. Form 2 groups. These 2 terms in one group, and these 2 terms in the other group. Now factor each group. Take the numbers 2 and 7. Divide. No number can divide these 2 numbers except 1. So we cannot factor any number out. Next, look at the variable. You have x to the 3rd and x squared. 2 is the smallest exponent, so the greatest common factor of the variable is x squared. So the GCF is x squared. Factor out x squared. Put parentheses. Divide each term by x squared. 2x cubed divided by x squared is 2x. Plus, 7x squared divided by x squared is 7. Plus, now factor this. Take the numbers 10 and 35. Divide. 10 and 35 can be divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 35 divided by 5 is 7. These numbers cannot be divided by any number. So GCF is 5. Now look at the variable. There is an x here, but no x here. So no common factor for the variable. Factor out 5. Now divide each term by 5. 10x divided by 5 is 2x. Plus, 35 divided by 5 is 7. Now you have 2 terms. Between these two terms, there is a greatest common factor, 2x plus 7. Factor out 2x plus 7. Divide each term by 2x plus 7. If you divide this term by 2x plus 7, you get x squared. Plus, if you divide this term by 2x plus 7, you get 5. This is the answer. Problem 10. Factor by grouping. 12x cubed minus 9x squared minus 56x plus 42. This polynomial also has 4 terms. So we factor it by grouping. Form 2 groups. And factor each group. Take the numbers 12 and 9. Divide. These numbers can be divided by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now there is no number that can divide 4 and 3. So the GCF of the numbers is 3. Next, find the GCF of the variable. You have x cubed and x squared. The GCF is x squared. So the GCF is 3x squared. Factor out 3x squared. And divide each term by 3x squared. 12x cubed divided by 3x squared is 4x. Minus 9x squared divided by 3x squared is 3. Next, factor this expression. There is a minus sign, so you need to factor out the negative sign. So put a negative sign to the GCF. Now take the numbers 56 and 42 and divide. These numbers can be divided by 2. 56 divided by 2 is 28. 42 divided by 2 is 21. These numbers can be divided by 7. 28 divided by 7 is 4. 21 divided by 7 is 3. These numbers cannot be divided by any number. So the GCF is multiply 2 and 7. 2 times 7 is 14. There is no common factor for x. So the GCF is negative 14. Factor out negative 14. Now divide each term by negative 14. Negative 56x divided by negative 14 is positive 4x. Positive 42 divided by negative 14 is negative 3. Now you have 2 terms. There is a greatest common factor of 4x minus 3. Factor out 4x minus 3. Put parentheses. Divide each term by 4x minus 3. If you divide this term by 4x minus 3, you get 3x squared. If you divide this term by 4x minus 3, you get negative 14. You factored the polynomial. This is the last problem. Factor by grouping. 7x squared plus 14x minus 5x minus 10. Let us factor this. Form 2 groups. And factor each group. Take the numbers 7 and 14. Divide. These numbers can be divided by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. There is no number that can divide 1 and 2. So the GCF is 7. Next, find the GCF of the variable. You have x squared and x. The GCF is x. So the GCF is 7x. Factor out 7x. Now divide each term by 7x. 7x squared divided by 7x is x. Plus 14x divided by 7x is 2. Next, factor this expression. There is a minus sign, so you need to factor out the negative sign. So put a negative sign in the GCF. Take the numbers 5 and 10. Divide. These numbers can be divided by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. You cannot divide these numbers by a number. So the GCF is 5. Now look at the variable. There is an x here, but no x here, so there is no common factor for x. So the GCF is negative 5. Factor out negative 5. And divide each term by negative 5. Negative 5x divided by negative 5 is positive x. Negative 10 divided by negative 5 is positive 2. Now you have a greatest common factor, x plus 2. Factor out x plus 2. Divide each term by x plus 2. If you divide this term by x plus 2, you get 7x. If you divide this term by x plus 2, you get negative 5. This is the answer.